Good day, friends. I'm here to talk to you about the Proclamation of 1763. When the French and Indian War ended, King George III wanted to do something to help ease the fears and frustrations of Native Americans. Native Americans had every right to be frustrated and angry because colonists were pouring into the West. They were moving past or to the west of the Appalachian Mountains. They were taking Native American land that didn't belong to them. They wanted to build new settlements, new towns, new farms. Colonists were looking for new economic opportunities. But to do that, they were taking land that belonged to Native Americans. So King George III wanted to step in and do something to help ease the fears of Native Americans. He knew that Great Britain had won the French and Indian War with the help of Native Americans. So he wanted to repay the help that Native Americans had given during the French and Indian War. And he also wanted to try to reduce the conflict and bloodshed between colonists and Native Americans, because colonists, of course, were constantly taking land that did not belong to them. According to primary source records, 3 Cherokee Native American leaders sailed to London and met with King George III in person in 1762. So notice the Proclamation of 1763, that's a year after these leaders met with King George III. So these leaders were able to talk to King George III and secure that proclamation a year later. These Native American leaders talked to King George III about how they wanted peace between their people and Native Americans, and they felt like the only way to ensure peace was to get colonists to stop stealing their land. So King George III decided to issue this royal proclamation. The proclamation said that colonists were not allowed to move west of the Appalachian Mountains. This primary source text was issued by King George III's assistants and people in the British government to put down in writing all of the aspects of this royal proclamation. Colonists viewed this proclamation as an insult to them. Colonists, of course, were British citizens, and they felt that their king was taking the side of Native Americans and giving Native Americans preference over his own British citizens. So colonists did not appreciate this proclamation at all. What do I think personally as a teacher? Well, I think that King George III was trying to be a good leader and a good king to everyone. In his mind, however incorrect it was, King George III felt that he was in charge of not only the colonists living within the borders of the 13 colonies, he thought he was in charge also of the Native American nations that lived in North America. He wanted to, as I said before, he wanted to repay the help that Native Americans had given during the French and Indian War, and he also wanted to help cut down on these deadly conflicts between colonists and Native Americans. So he issued the proclamation. He made the proclamation line go right along the Appalachian Mountains. So he said that colonists may settle anywhere within the borders of the 13 colonies, but they could not go west of this line. I now want to introduce you to a colonist who you will find very interesting. His name was Daniel Boone. Daniel Boone fought for the British in the French and Indian War for a very short time. He didn't really like the soldier life. So he left the British Army. He became a pioneer, a frontiersman. He was famous for his exploration and settlement of Kentucky. And you see Kentucky right here on the red arrow. Kentucky was west of the Proclamation line. So Kentucky was a place that colonists were not supposed to settle. Daniel Boone did, however. He helped to create the Wilderness Road, which was a path that more than 200,000 colonists traveled to settle into the West. Boone became like a folk hero to people, and he became a well-known symbol of the American frontier. So, how does Daniel Boone relate to the Proclamation of 1763? Well, he actively ignored and defied the Proclamation of 1763. He was fully aware of the fact that it was against King George III's rules for him to settle in the West or to even help others move west, but he did not care. He continued to explore and help others discover new settlements and new places in Kentucky and the American West. Because of Daniel Boone and thousands of other colonists like him, the Proclamation of 1763 ultimately failed. It fell apart. The British government was not able to enforce the proclamation. There was just too much land. They couldn't put a soldier at every space in the Appalachian Mountains where colonists could cross through. So it was just impossible to enforce, and colonists themselves were ignoring the proclamation. Tragically, Native Americans lost more and more of their land. Violent interactions between Native Americans and colonists increased, and an effect of the Proclamation of 1763 was that colonists felt slighted and disrespected by King George III. Colonists were slowly moving down the road toward revolution, and the Proclamation of 1763 was one of the earliest things that helped colonists to start to see that they possibly might need to work together toward gaining independence from Great Britain.